Hello, this is Bill Steffen. Thanks so much for joining me as we talk a little bit about the weather to start. Let's take a look at a couple of pictures that I shot from the Alpine Athletic Field here Wednesday evening. The first picture looks off to, oh, by the way, we have to thank the Ottawa News Network. I forgot about that. Thank you so much for coming on board with us. Now let's take a look at pictures. I was so excited to show you this. Looking off toward the east-northeast. You're looking at a cumulonimbus cloud, a thunderstorm that's approximately 90 miles away. That was right around Saginaw. And if you were out, you could see this off to the east-northeast, a beautiful anvil-shaped top to that thunderstorm. And then I turned the camera around and looked to the west, and you could see the anvils approaching from thunder showers that were over Lake Michigan. There was some lightning out over Lake Michigan, and those storms weakened. And by the time, like I said, I got to me, I had a whopping 200ths of an inch of rain. The image on radar right there is obviously not a current image. That was what it looked like when I took the picture. So you could look east and see that red, which is over there by Saginaw. And you could look off to the west-northwest, and you could see some red out over the lake where there was a thunderstorm in progress. So interesting to watch the sky on a summer evening while I was taking a walk. All right, let's move on and take a look at our severe weather odds for July the 3rd. First of all, this is the average of tornado probabilities across the United States. The redder the color, that means the greater the chance that you would see a tornado on July the 3rd in the United States. And this is based on about 20 years of record. A couple of things to point out. The most likely place to see a tornado on July the 3rd is in northeast Colorado, of all places. They've had more tornadoes out there. One advantage to this climatology is the fact that you can see the tornadoes a zillion miles away when you're out on the plains of Colorado there. There's also a little bit of a red dot in northwestern Iowa and in southeastern South Dakota, southwestern Minnesota there. But you can see the orange color extends east into southwest Michigan, and a tornado is more likely on July the 3rd in Kalamazoo, Michigan, than it is in Oklahoma, Dallas, or Fort Worth. Once you get into the main part of summer, you don't see many tornadoes across the southern United States. That band tends to move off to the north. And you can see a little kind of a bullseye there in Florida. That's due to hurricanes. Hurricanes can spawn lots of small tornadoes, and that's why that bumps the climatology up there just a little bit. So interesting. Okay, where's the severe weather going to be today? It's going to be off to our west of us mainly. If we take a look at the the severe thunderstorm threat here, I don't think there'll be many, if any, tornadoes today, but North Dakota, and especially kind of in a circle there around New York City, possibility for some damaging winds and a few thunderstorms. There's a marginal area which did include West Michigan yesterday, but they've taken West Michigan out. And we're just in that light green color for non-severe weather if we get anything at all. But there's a marginal risk across Chicago, Milwaukee, and back toward Minneapolis. And then we move ahead to Friday. This is Independence Day. A lot of people looking at fireworks here on the 4th of July on Friday. And you can see the marginal outlook covers most of Minnesota into the extreme western part of upper Michigan. There is a chance of a non-severe thunder shower north of a line from about Grand Haven to Big Rapids and northward. But I think the odds of that is small. And if anybody's going to the fireworks here Friday evening, Friday night, it looks pretty good here in lower Michigan. All right, we're going to take time out right now and thank our sponsors, starting with Complete Care Concierge.
First of all, is that a kitty cat that I hear?
That is a kitty cat, and I don't know which one. All three of them are wandering around here looking for my attention. They like to be petted now, especially the two females. So they're probably sitting here waiting at me. They look up with those eyes going, please, will you pet me? And so I kind of got to bend down for just a minute and pet them. But they're good cats.
Well, when you're a house cat, it is your right.
Yes.
So if you have house cats and you're sick of your house being full of cat fur all the time, Complete Care Concierge is your answer. They are the fast, efficient, and affordable cleaning service, residential, commercial, and special cleans. Call them at 616-264-1397. They've got you covered.
When your home needs help, you might not know where to start. Why not ask Ace? We're always here to help with Ace Handyman Services. Our talented craftsmen handle everything from drywall and carpentry to doors and kitchens. We're the neighbors you trust to get the job done right. Let's get started. Book your handyman appointment today. Ace Handyman Services, bringing helpful to your home.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Days are still long in the month of July, even though daylight is shrinking. Tomorrow we'll have 48 seconds less sunshine than we had the day before. Sunrise time now at 6:08, sunset at 9:24. The average high and low temperature, 83 and 62. Record high temperature, 97, and that was set 3 times in 1921, 47 and 66. The record low temperature, 43, back in 1968 when I was in high school. And that's a pretty sunrise. I like that picture, so I've kept it up there. That's in downtown Holland by the bank building there, the old bank building. All right, let's go on and take a look at some high temperatures on the day yesterday. That was Wednesday, and a Wednesday evening picture of everybody up and down on the pier at South Haven. A lot of people there walking the pier, and you can see people back on the beach too. Warmest temperature at Grand Rapids, Ionia, and Fremont. And one of the reasons for that is because those areas have not seen very much rain. I talked before about the fact that the sun's energy goes to not only heating air, but also evaporating water. And when there's a lot of water laying around, like in Battle Creek, where they've had 7 inches of rain in June, there's more of the sun's energy goes into evaporating water. So Battle Creek and Kalamazoo are both 3 degrees cooler than Grand Rapids. Kind of interesting. And Big Rapids, Mount Pleasant at 87. Now, as you got toward the lakeshore, it was cooler, but not as cool as it's been. As water temperatures warm up at Lake Michigan, you can see that the temperatures there are getting a little bit warmer than they were back in June. 78, the high temperature at the South Haven Lighthouse, even with the wind coming in off the water. The Holland Beach was 77. The end of the pier at Muskegon was 74. But by the way, the beach at Muskegon was 78. So there was 4 degrees difference as you walked out on the pier to the end of the pier there at Muskegon. And Mackinac Island had a beautiful day with a high temperature of 74. Take a look at rainfall across the U.S. and look at all the rain out in the western United States. Isn't that something? Look at Arizona, the higher elevations. And in fact, they may see a shower in Las Vegas. Temperatures there cooler than average. And look at Florida. There were, I think Florida was only in the low 80s, good 10 degrees cooler than average. And look at all that rain that's going to fall down there. There's still raining in West Texas. There were some temperatures in West Texas that never got out of the 70s, which is pretty unusual for them in July. Not much goes on in Michigan, or I guess in Alabama too. Let's take a look right now, zoomed into Michigan just a little bit. And you can see nothing pretty much expected over the next 66 hours. So if you're not seeing the rain you need, you got to drag the hose around at the garden and make sure those plants and vegetables stay watered. You can see, again, another chance for showers and thunder showers from Saginaw, Midland, east to the Thumb area there. And really, some of the showers and thunder showers that form in Wisconsin, I guess it's not impossible. A couple of those could make it across the lake during the evening period, but not a lot of rain in the forecast here over the next several days. All right, taking a look at tropical weather for you. Each day, the chance of a tropical storm off the coast of Florida has been increasing by about 10%, and the Hurricane Center now has it up from 30 to 40%. So tomorrow it may be a 50-50 shot at that, but it would be fairly small, fairly weak as opposed to how tropical storms and hurricanes go. The main thing will be the rain in Florida, and especially along the coastline. This system may remain just off the coast, but should provide some decent rains across Florida and perhaps up into the coastline Carolinas as well. And out west, we have Flossie, and that storm is moving off to the northwest. It'll weaken quite a bit today. It may go from hurricane to nothing but a depression as it moves over cooler water. And that hatched area there is where the next system may form, and that will be called Tropical Storm Gil when that forms. Kind of appropriate, Gil, out over the lake, fish, gills, whatever. But it's only one L. And then in the, I didn't put in the graphic for the Western Pacific, but there's one tropical storm near Taiwan and another one that's going to be developing, which may come close to Taiwan and probably stay just a little bit east of Japan. So we're tracking that area there as well. Our headlines look like this. We're going to be seeing a warm day today again and downright hot for Friday, 4th of July, and Saturday. Saturday will be the hottest day. There's a slight chance of a thunder shower this afternoon, but only a slight chance. If you need rain, I hope you get one. A better chance for a storm would come on Sunday as a cool front approaches, but even then, that's not a sure thing. Look for warm weather inland, cooler temperatures near Lake Michigan. So we'll take a look at some of the high temperatures here. And this is, first of all, water temperatures along the lakeshore. For some reason, Grand Haven was a little cooler. Maybe I had a touch of wind that stirred up the water there just a little bit. But everybody else pretty much in the low 70s. South Haven's reading is from the buoy. It's not at the beach. And Reed's Lake water temperature, once again, when I checked today, was a very pleasant 82 degrees. So let's take a look at some temperatures for you now. First of all, the official high temperature for today at 88 degrees, low at 65. I've got the chance of a thunder shower at only about 20% for the afternoon with mostly clear skies at night. We got a half moon up there in the sky during the evening hours now, and the planet Venus shining brightly in our eastern sky before sunrise. Humidity down to 45 to 50%. Winds will be west, maybe west-northwest in the afternoon at about 10 miles an hour. Now we'll take a look at some high temperatures across the area. During the day today, mid to upper 80s in inland areas. And you notice how the computer is picking up on the fact that Grand Rapids, Greenville will be a degree warmer than Kalamazoo and Battle Creek and Jackson, of course. Chicago reaches 92, the asphalt there and everything heating up. 78 at the Mid-Lake Buoy, so warm temperatures out there as well, relatively warm. Up in the UP, some 60s right along the Lake Superior shoreline. Everybody else has a very pleasant day with temperatures in the 70s. For Friday, the 4th of July, we're heating up to 90 in Grand Rapids, close to 90 in Kalamazoo, 84 in South Haven. They put on a nice fireworks display in the South Haven area. Let's take a look off to the right at the UP, and you can see temperatures even along the Lake Superior shoreline are reaching the low 80s. So it should be a pretty nice day across most all of the state of Michigan here to celebrate the 249th birthday of the US of A. And then for Saturday, that's the hottest day of the bunch. Wow, 94 for Greenville. I think Grand Rapids will come close to 94. 91 Jackson, 86 in South Haven, and that's with the wind coming in off the lake. Chicago, Gary, Indiana at 95. Traverse City, south wind will send their temperature up to 93. Alpena, 94. Saturday is going to be a hot day in the UP. Look at all those temperatures up into the 80s. 87 for Marquette here during the day on Saturday. Here's the 5-day forecast. Look for temperatures in the mid-80s today in most areas. There's a % chance of rain. Low 90s Friday, mid-90s on Saturday. We cool off, but only a little bit here into Sunday and Monday. And Sunday night, we have that chance for a random shower or thunderstorm. And like I said, if you need rain in your area, I hope you get some. The latest long-range outlook out to 8 to 14 days shows temperatures near normal here in West Michigan. That's July 9th through the mid part of the month, the 15th. And, hot conditions. By the way, a couple temperatures in Montana made it 100 degrees. Remember a week ago we were talking about snow in Glacier National Park? Well, they warmed up. Glacier is seeing temperatures in the 70s. And it stays warm in the south. It's kind of interesting in Florida where they're getting all that rain. The warm temperatures are more at night than they are during the day. And then in terms of rainfall, you can see the much of the country seeing rain conditions that are above average. And the rain outlook here for July 9th through the 15th, if we can take a look at that, shows for temperatures, shows the above average rainfall on the East Coast and also down in Arizona. And in the Pacific Northwest, we're near normal here, and we'll take that. If we can get near normal rainfall during the month of July, that's going to be good for all the farmers out there. All right, Michelle, how's everything? You were back from your vacation in Tennessee?
Yes, it was pretty much a staycation. I've been there many times before, but it's a wonderful place to go.
Did you fly or drive?
We drove.
Wow, that's unusual.
Yeah, one of the perks of being close by.
Yeah, it's not that far.
Okay, so here's a viewer comment. Good morning, Bill. We have been RV traveling across the country. got nailed by a rogue thunderstorm on I-70 in Colorado at the Nebraska border. Hail was pummeling us. A 22-year-old hydroplaned and flipped his car 3.5 times right in front of us.
Wow.
He was fine. How are you fine after that? We sheltered for 2 tornadoes last year traveling in May. My kids are always on the lookout for bad weather. Thanks for all you do to keep us informed. Love your work. Have a great summer. From the Kwiatkowski family.
That's interesting too. Thanks for sharing with that. I remember we took a trip to Colorado when I was going into 8th grade. It was between 7th and 8th grade. And our car had a mechanical issue at Ray, Colorado. And you could see the mountains way in the distance. I think we were only on a 2-lane. That was before they built the interstate there. It was blistering hot, but they fixed the car, and they were only going to charge us $4. And my father went to the back and found the mechanic who solved the problem in a relatively short period of time and gave him an extra buck. And that would have been 1963 or 64. So that's the only time I ever saw my dad tip somebody at the car dealership.
Well, that was courteous.
We went and got a picnic lunch from the local supermarket and had a nice picnic lunch while they looked at the car in Ray, Colorado, W-R-A-Y. And I still remember that to this day. But I'm glad that that 22-year-old kid was okay. You got to slow down whenever there's ice. You really got to slow down because just like driving in winter, roads get very slippery.
I did a road trip out there too in college. One of my college friends was from Colorado and needed to drive her car back at the end of the term. So I rode out there with her. It was fun.
Yeah, we had a great time. Went up on Trail Ridge Road through Rocky Mountain National Park and stayed at Mount Princeton Hot Springs. And I wound up talking to an 8th grade girl from England, of all things. And my brother was just absolutely baffled that I would be talking to a girl. But and then I remember at night that gigantic porcupine went right in front of me, just waddled out of the woods and walked right in front of me, and I kind of didn't move. What am I supposed to do? You're not supposed to get near him. And it just went off into the woods.
So another comment from Tony: the city of Grand Rapids shipwreck can be seen in Tobermory, Ontario, at the tip of the Bruce Peninsula.
That's the peninsula that juts out into Lake Huron, and I have been there. Well, there you got a map, yeah, and I have been there before. The water is extremely clear in Tobermory. I walked out on a pier, and I looked down, and I'm like, whoa! You know, it feels like. How do
you even get there? Do you drive?
Yes, I drove across 69. We went around Lake Huron. That was an interesting trip. We drove from here to Port Huron, Sarnia, and then went up the coast and went around Georgian Bay and went up to Sudbury. And we had, I think it was your first birthday in a tent in Sudbury, Ontario. We couldn't find a cake, but we found somebody that bakes pies and had pies for sale on the side of the road. And we had a very nice pie. I forget what kind. And we had to retreat in the tent because there were so many mosquitoes. This was in Sudbury, where I remember in Sudbury, they also had a gigantic smokestack. So interesting.
Okay, so this got me doing a little bit more research. And it turns out there were 3 City of Grand Rapids ships or Grand Rapids ships that I could find. I was kind of mixing 2 of them together, but it turns out there were 3. So this is the first one. This was 125 feet, 190 tons. This one actually sank in Tobermory in 1907. It caught fire, and at the time they didn't try to fight the fires in the harbor because they didn't want the whole harbor to burn down. So they just attached a tow, towed the ship that was on fire out far enough that it wasn't going to affect anybody else, and just let it burn.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yep. So that's how that one got there. And it's like you said, it's clear water. It's well preserved. You can take a tour or go out there with your own boat and see it.
Wow, neat. Well, I have to remember that. 125 foot, 190 tons.
Yeah, it looks like it'd be a pretty fun thing to plan a trip around.
Neat.
So that's where that was. Now the second one, I couldn't get a picture of it. I wasn't sure that we would have the rights to use it, but if you want to see it, the Milwaukee Public Library has a good photo of it. And it was called the First Lady of the Great Lakes because it was considered the most luxurious passenger ship at the time. And looking at the photo, that was true. It looked really, really nice.
How does Grand Rapids get 3 ships named after it? And we're not even on the lake.
Naming ships after cities was a thing at the time. There were several.
I was going to say Benton Harbor would be jealous.
So this one was built in 1912, and then there were ownership changes, and the home port was in Minnesota for a while. It was sold to a Grand Rapids company. Then it was owned by a Chicago company. It finally had an incident, and then it was scrapped in 1952.
There's a Grand Rapids, Minnesota too, but it's not close to Lake Superior.
Right.
Wasn't Bob Dylan from up around there somewhere, like Ely, Minnesota, or something like that? I think so.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did look really, really nice. But it was a whole other ship from the one that's buried in.
Okay.
And then there's this one. So this is the USS Grand Rapids, which was a U.S. Navy gunboat in the Vietnam War, commissioned in 1970, decommissioned in 1977. And this Facebook listing, I found it today. It's still up there. I don't know if you can still go ask to buy the boat, but 6 years ago it was for sale, and it was in Alabama at the time.
In Alabama?
Mm-hmm.
No kidding. Well, so you can go buy it.
Yeah, according to the ad, you can repurpose it into a luxury mega yacht.
Well, either that or, put it in the backyard and let the kids play in it or something if you want to. Kind of like a tree house.
So that was 3 I could find. There's probably others somewhere.
It's 164 feet long. I mean, that would take up a little room.
Mm-hmm. Okay, July 3, 1882, the Grand Rapids and Indiana Railroad extended their service to Mackinac, and they were not the first ones to do it. The Michigan Central Railroad also built a line to Mackinac in 1881, but the Grand Rapids and Indiana Railroad started their Mackinac line on July 3 in 1882, and they marketed it as the fishing line because of all the amazing fishing in northern Michigan, and that hasn't changed. And then both of the railroads and the Detroit and Cleveland Steamship Navigation Company teamed up to do what? Build the Grand Hotel, so that all these people who they wanted to ride on the railroads had somewhere to go.
Yeah, that's really interesting because there were a lot of people that came up there, and Mackinac Island really has some great scenery and weather. July is a wonderful month for those of us that'll be in the 90s down here over the weekend, Friday, Saturday. Up in Mackinac Island, temperatures will be mostly in the 70s, mid-upper 70s, very pleasant.
And part of the route is now the White Pine Trail, which is the longest paved trail in Michigan.
Oh, no kidding. And we got to thank Fred Meyer and Meyer Incorporated for helping out with that, because they put some of the money up to pave the White Pine Trail.
Okay, July 3, 1863 was the last day of the Battle of Gettysburg, and there's Gettysburg on our map of Pennsylvania. 165,000 people were involved in the Battle of Gettysburg, an estimated 51,000 casualties, split pretty evenly between both sides, 23,000 Union and 28,000 Confederate. The fighting lasted for 3 days, and it was basically what ended the Confederate attempts at independence, was that battle ended in the Union's favor.
You remember the Gettysburg Address, 407 years ago?
7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, we are engaged in a great civil war. We have met on a battlefield of that war. Mr. Bolema made us memorize it in the 8th grade.
Well, yeah, and you're closer to when you memorized it than I was, so
But in a greater sense, we cannot hallow that ground. The brave men living here who fought here have done better than we could have ever done. The justice by the people for the people shall not perish from the earth.
I mean, just think of that, 51,000 people. I mean, that's most of the population of Wyoming. I mean, it's an incredible number of people. Just really a shame that had to happen.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
Yeah,
Not kind of sad. Forward. It's extremely sad that so many people in human history have lost their lives to fighting, and that continues to happen.
Have you ever looked at some of the Civil War graves that are at the Veterans Facility here on the north end of Grand
Mm-hmm.
Rapids?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And speaking of, here's an actual photo of Abraham Lincoln at the Gettysburg
Oh, no kidding.
site. Mm-hmm. Photography was just coming into its own, and of course, being the president and all, lots of photographs were for him. So there he is, there with all those people.
And he's a tall guy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he was born in Kentucky. A lot of people think he was born in Illinois, but he was born in Kentucky, moved to Indiana, and then from Indiana to Illinois. Oh, look at that.
And here's a
I've
postcard
never
from
been there.
Gettysburg National Cemetery, and this is dated from somewhere between 1930 and 1945.
Mm-hmm.
So this Gettysburg Cemetery was created for casualties from the Union for the war, and then on November 19, 1863, Lincoln traveled there to dedicate the cemetery, where 3,500 people are buried from the Civil War. There's also people from other wars buried there too, along with spouses and children.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been?
And that's a postcard. No, I've never been to Gettysburg.
Me neither.
That's one place I should probably get to. I mean, really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
All those stones there represent a human being that died within a 3-day period, at least most of them. Yeah, interesting.
Okay, July 3, 1897, Lake Anne burned down. I had no idea.
How could a lake burn down?
Funny. The population was 1,000 at the time, which made it one of the larger villages in northern Michigan. And it was just a spark by the sawmill, and there were lots of sawmills in the area at the time. And it burned down 50 buildings. It wiped out the entire downtown, 75 homes total. And a lot of people had traveled away from the town, and I think across the lake, but I can't remember which one, for 4th of July celebrations and or summer celebrations or something, and they weren't there. They could only watch it burn down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really sad. If you take a look at fires in the old days, of course, the Chicago fire, I think that was 1871, and the same time was the Peshtigo fire up in Wisconsin, which was even worse than the Chicago fire when it comes to casualties.
And you couldn't just go to Walmart to get what you needed. All your stuff was in your house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what do you do when everyone loses everything at once?
Yeah. You hope you got some relatives that'll take you in and help you out. You got to take care of your fellow man.
Okay, this movie was released on July 3, 1985, starring Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. This science fiction film follows teenager Marty McFly in his accidental travels back in time. It was the highest grossing film of 1985.
Oh, it was. Is that Back to the Future?
Did you see it in the theater?
No, I did not. I saw it on TV, I think. But yeah, that was the famous car.
What's the first movie that you remember seeing in a theater?
I remember going to the community house in Winnetka, Illinois, and seeing old cartoons, old Mickey Mouse cartoons, and I believe it was something like 50 cents to get in at the time. I used to run shows like on a Sunday afternoon.
Oh, speaking of, we were at a diner in Tennessee, and they had a horse that kids could ride, and it was 50 cents.
50 cents.
For shame, the Myers would not do that.
No, they have the penny pony at Meyer.
You can ride the Meyer pony 50 times.
And you did, of course.
Obviously. Well, there wasn't a line at 2 a.m.
No, that's right. We went at 2 a.m.
So I would go to work with him to do the late night show, and I would sit, there was a couch outside of the weather office, and I would just sit there and read my books and watch TV and whatever. And then when he was done doing the news, he'd wrap up his work and we would go to Meyer.
Yeah, and I would shop at that time, and that way there weren't that many people, so I wasn't stopped every 20 feet for somebody to talk about the storm they were in or something like that.
And
I
it
mean,
was
not that I
very
don't like
fun.
talking about weather, but yeah, you just never get your shopping done that way. So what's Meyer going to do when they're not making pennies anymore?
I thought about that, but I've got my token. Remember that one that I saved from Kids Week when I was 7? So maybe they'll just have tokens, or I don't know.
Could be.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, it is 7-3. These two organs of the body are 73% water. The Scarecrow and the Tin Man could help us answer the question.
Well, one, of course, is a brain, And let's see, the Scarecrow needed the brain. The Tin Man needed a heart.
Both the brain and the heart are 73% water. So there's some
Okay.
73 trivia for
I
you.
think I should have a drink.
And a
Those-
photo from Bear Lake in Manistee County, which is so pretty. I used to drive past there all the time when I was doing the drive back and forth. It's such a lovely lake and large.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And I remember seeing that for the first time when I was single. And I went up to DH Day Park to go camping for a couple, 3 days. And I pitched my own tent and sat there and read books. And enough people recognized me that I always had people to talk to about weather and whatever else. And I had a good time hiking around there. But Bear Lake is beautiful. You're coming on the road there, and all of a sudden you just come to this beautiful lake. That's pretty good size, as you can see.
And a storm rolling in Muskegon from John Scully.
I bet that was tonight. And you can see the dark clouds there coming in from off the lake. There was quite a bit of lightning, or not quite a bit, but some lightning out over the lake, and that kind of dissipated by the time I got here to Grand Rapids. We just had a little light shower for about 5-10 minutes, and it was done. But thanks to John. Well, time to wrap things up here. Again, the forecast calls for just a very slight chance of a shower, thunder shower this afternoon and evening. Most of us will probably wind up staying dry one more day. We should be back up into the upper 80s, though it will again be cooler near the lake with the west wind off the lake. That'd be the place to cool off a bit if you got the day off. We're up to 90 here on the 4th of July. Again, a bit cooler near the lake. Hottest day is Saturday at 95 degrees here. It's going to be a scorcher. Have yourself an awesome day today, and thanks for watching till the very end.